a lot of people think, oh, I have to look good for other people. I have to do this because other people will see me. But how do you see you? I feel a lot of people that do it for other people lack a lot of confidence and self-esteem. If you
Mm.
truly do it for you, then you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, man, I really look good. I like taking care of myself. I think you reflect that outwards. When you're constantly doing it for the validation of other people, you're never satisfied.
Welcome to the Beauty Talk podcast, where we feature how the best medical practitioners help their patients to look better, younger, and healthier. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Daniel Gao here. I'm the host of Beauty Talk. We feature the top practitioners in health and beauty, both inside and out. I have Jaylee, the founder and CEO of Jaylee's Beauty Lounge, an award-winning luxury med spa with locations in Eastchester and Hartsdale, New York. A licensed esthetician, certified life, health, and beauty coach, and a sergeant in law enforcement, Jaylee has earned more than 22 advanced certifications and has built a reputation for combining science-backed treatments with personalized patient care. After growing her business by over 600% and expanding to multiple locations, she has become a recognized voice in the aesthetics industry, speaking on entrepreneurship, wellness, beauty, and corrective skincare. Jamie is passionate about helping clients build confidence from the outside in while mentoring the next generation of beauty professionals. So, Jaylee, welcome and glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's start from the very beginning. How did you first get interested in the aesthetics field?
I think it was just more so around the pandemic era. It was like, okay, here we are, everything is closed, no one can do anything. So everybody started feeling a little bit depressed. They were like, what can I do? I can't do anything. I have to stay home. But then people who didn't know how to do their nails couldn't do their nails. People who couldn't do their hair couldn't do their hair. So I was like, what can I do to help these people while they're at home? At least try to feel a little bit better about themselves. So that's when I started diving into the videos on YouTube. And I said, well, I'll create tutorials on what your skincare should be for the winter and how you can care for your skin during the summer and what type of products you should be using if you have a certain type of skin.
Hmm.
And then I even taught myself how to do a certain type of nails so this way I could do it and show people as well as remove it and show people. And people were like, oh my God, this is such a big help. Thank you so much. And from there, I was like, I want to be able to make people feel like themselves again. I don't think that people should walk around feeling less than or feeling like, oh, I'm not pretty or I'm not beautiful or, I have to hide my skin because I don't know how to treat it or anything like that. So I was like, how can I create something that will help these people learn to love themselves again? And that's how that came about.
Wow. Okay. And so, how did that then transition into you starting your own business and now expanding to another location? Um, I guess what led you to decide to start your own business?
So I was spending so much money in Sephora.
Mhm.
And I said, why do I keep throwing money at other people's brands when I can create my own brand? And so I went down a rabbit hole of like, how can I create my own skincare? What would I need to create my own skincare? I started looking for labs and I started looking for packaging and what I wanted, and just basically went through this whole thing of like, okay, I need to do this and I need to do it now. I'm the type of person that it's like, if my mind is set on it today, by tomorrow, something has to be happening for it.
Mhm.
So I just did a lot of research, a lot of homework, a lot of emails, a lot of contacting questions. I was new to it, so I didn't know. But along the process, you kind of learn things. So I was able to pick out which labs were better, which ingredients would be better, what type of packaging and why. Like, I didn't even think that packaging made a difference, but it does because when you're dealing with things like vitamin C and other types of ingredients that cannot be exposed to light, you have to have darker bottles, amber bottles, things like that. So I went into this whole thing, and then finally, Beauty with Jaylee was created, which was the skincare brand and the cosmetic line. And then I said, I'm going to do a website for this and I'm going to put this out there. And that's how that started. And then from there, I said, well, I'm an esthetician. Why not do something with that? Why not take extra courses and certifications, and I learned how to do body contouring, and I learned how to do cellulite treatment, and I learned how to do more advanced corrective treatments for facials. And from there, it just, turned into like a snowball effect and got bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, I went from partnering with an old business partner out in Long Island, and that didn't work out so well. So about after 2 years, we decided, let's just call it quits, no hard feelings. We're still friends.
Mhm.
I decided to come to Westchester, but now that was a transition for me because I had my clients in Long Island, and coming to Westchester, that's about almost sometimes a 2-hour drive. And so I knew that I had to build myself from the beginning, but I knew that I had to do it quickly. So I just, I took a room in one of the salon suites and I said, well, I'll start here and we'll just gradually grow. Luckily for me, my Long Island clients were still coming to me. They were like, no, we're going to follow you. So I was like, okay, if they follow you, that means you're good and you have something that they want and they trust. So I knew that I could go further than that. I started working on getting a team together, and from there, we needed more space, which is how Eastchester came about where I'm at now. We opened this location here, had 4 treatment rooms. I was like, beautiful. We have providers. We can make this work. And then a year after opening Eastchester, I opened the storefront in Hartsdale, and that's how that came about. So now we have a good team of like 8 of us. We have nurse practitioners, we have our medical director, permanent makeup artists, estheticians, and myself.
Wow, incredible story. Incredible story of growth as well.
Thank
So,
you.
okay, now, Jaylee, I'd like to dive deeper into the services that you provide. I know you provide a lot of services within your business, but let's start off with the corrective skincare. You mentioned that you kind of start with skincare, the product line, but also the YouTube videos in the very beginning, the tutorials. But let's start with what is corrective skincare? 'Cause I know people know about skincare, and there's lots of different ways to do that. But what about the corrective part? Like, what is corrective skincare?
So corrective skincare is like, okay, let's say someone has really bad acne, and that's a thing nowadays, right? It gets worse with the seasons, it gets worse with what you do in your lifestyle on a daily basis. So sometimes they have really bad breakouts. So what I would call a corrective treatment is, how are we going to start minimizing your breakouts? How are we going to dive into that? Obviously, it could be many factors, but my job is to figure out which one it is, and let's start controlling that. Sometimes after the acne goes away, they have acne hyperpigmentation, which stays on their skin. So sometimes we have to get rid of these pigmentation issues. Sometimes they have deep ice pick like acne scars. How do we get rid of that? How do we give you good, smooth skin again that you once had prior to the acne? So that's where corrective treatments come in. You may need a deep cleanse to start off with. I never do anything invasive, just starting off. If you have severe acne, we're going to help your skin barrier first because chances are your skin barrier is compromised. Once we work on that foundation and we get that to a smooth, steady flow, then we can introduce slower things like a peel. Then we can see how the peel takes. Then we can actually continue with, with peels, most of the time you need a little bit more treatments than just one. So once you start to do that, then we see, okay, you have acne hyperpigmentation. Well, what can we do? Can we incorporate some form of nano needling? Can we incorporate possibly some PRP with our nurse? Anything. We try to put together a big treatment plan, so it's progress over time. It's not overnight. So corrective treatments are things like that. Corrective treatments are people who have they're maturing and they want to actually tighten up their skin, the elasticity, the laxity, things of that nature. So then we can do treatments of like PRP, microneedling. We can do Botox, fillers, things of that nature. So those are corrective treatments as well. So corrective treatments just goes into something that it's not just your basic facial. It does require something else, whether that be microneedling, peels, radio frequency to tighten the skin. It just varies.
Got it. Okay, now I want to go back to you're talking about acne as one of the examples, and you talked about how the skin barrier may be compromised. Can you dive a little bit deeper into that? Because I don't think people really know what is the skin barrier, or specifically like if they're suffering from acne, how does fixing the skin barrier help them?
So that's a good thing that you want to dive into. So a lot of times our skin barrier is like the microbiome, right? So we have to keep it nice and just even and balanced. And what does that look like? Well, when it's out of balance, sometimes you get breakouts, sometimes you have dry, flaky skin, sometimes you have just redness on the face and it just like itches, but you don't know why. Sometimes your skin just looks dull. There's a lot of ways that your skin can be imbalanced, and it could be because, you saw a TikTok trend and you're like, oh my God, I have to try this. But these TikTok trends, they're just going viral. They're just a trend. That's all it is. It's not telling you specifically what you need for your skin. And a lot of times people tend to just mess up their own skin barrier with these products that they're ordering from TikTok. They're putting these things on their face. They don't know the ingredients. They don't know how it's going to counteract with them. So they tend to strip that. They take out too much moisture from their face, or they over exfoliate. And when you do things like that, that's when you have problems. That's when you have, you may notice that by your brows, they're like very flaky and dry, or you may say, oh, like my skin, no matter what I put on it, it just continues to look dull. Or people who break out, they may not know why they're breaking out. Sometimes it's gut related. Of course, we dive deep into the lifestyle of things, but your actual barrier, it could be compromised in so many different ways, beginning with products that you have no idea what you're using.
Hmm. Now, you did mention that specifically what you need for your skin. So it sounds like everyone is kind of in a customized situation. So how do people really know like what products, what ingredients, what regimen is going to work for their skin or work against their skin? Is it just like a trial and error? Try this, and if it doesn't react well, then you know not to do it, or is there a more scientific or a better way of doing it?
So when I had to figure out what worked for my skin, I was one of those people back in the day that used like the Stridex pads when they came out and used the St. Ives scrub and stuff. I didn't know. I was just like, oh, this looks cool. I want to use it. Not knowing that even putting pure alcohol on my skin that I thought was good because I had oily skin, I thought the alcohol would actually balance it out. It wasn't. It was actually stripping my barrier. I went through so many products. I didn't know what I was doing before I became an esthetician. I was young. And so the only way I learned about my skin was when I actually saw an esthetician. And I said, hey, my skin feels like sandpaper and I don't know why. And she told me that my skin was dehydrated. And I was like, oh, I always thought I had oily skin. I didn't know there was a difference between dehydration and just like, oily skin that just over compromised because it was dehydrated. Dry skin, dehydrated skin, I was like, okay, what's the difference? Aren't they the same? And she taught me and she was like, no. So she did a facial and she recommended products for me and I started to use them and it changed my skin completely. And I was like, wow, okay. So as an individual, it's type hard to figure out what will work with you and what won't, just because you don't really know from a professional standpoint what to really look for. You
Mm.
may think, oh, this is really working for me, but sometimes it makes me a little oily. So then maybe it's not really for you, you know? So I always tell people, I've been on both sides of the spectrum and I know what it's like. So I always refer people to the professionals. If you want to see a dermatologist, if you want to see an esthetician, just people that actually know how to treat your skin and what to look for. That's how you learn as well, because we sit down with you, we take the time to teach you and say, hey, this is the type of skin you have. We do a skin analysis. The machine behind me here is actually a skin analysis machine, and that machine will tell you everything from your lifestyle to what you should eat to what you should not eat, things like that based on your skin type itself.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I didn't know there was something like that out there.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
now you mentioned the dehydrated skin part of it. And I think one thing people kind of think about, especially when it comes to acne, is that, oh, I have very oily skin. It's causing all this acne. So if I just dry out my skin, then it's going to prevent the acne. Is that true? Is that false? And kind of talk a little bit more about the dehydrated skin. Like, how do you get to that point and how does it hurt?
So that's false,
Mm,
right? And what people don't understand is that the more you dry out your skin, the more oils will produce. And
mm,
that's because you have no hydration in your skin. If you lack hydration, then the oil has no choice but to overcompensate. It's trying to save itself some way, somehow. So it starts to produce a lot more. So now you're like, oh my God, my skin is dry, but it's oily.
mm,
And that's because you're dehydrated. It's not that it's dry, it's dehydrated. So I have clients when I say you have dehydrated skin, they're like, well, I drink water. And I'm like, okay, all right, fair enough. But I always put it to them this way: you drink water for your organs need water. Right now, what we use topically on our skin should be water based if you have dehydration issues. So, you should use water based moisturizers. You should avoid using things like that have too much oil if you're already oily because you're dehydrated. But a lot of people don't understand that dehydration and dry skin are two totally different things. So I have a lot of people always asking online, I have dry skin, what should I do? And I'm like, 90% chance that you're probably dehydrated, not dry. But
mm,
it's hard for me to kind of really tell without seeing them in person and doing an analysis on them. And I'm not talking about this type of analysis. I'm just talking about, like, one-on-one professional,
mhm,
like looking at their skin in person. So I try to teach people, yeah, you can drink water. That's great. We need water for survival, but your organs primarily use that water that you're drinking. Like your eyes, right? You need
mm,
water for the eyes. They have to stay lubricated. Your kidneys, things like that. So that's what's really absorbing that water that you're drinking. Your skin, yeah, it absorbs a small percentage, but it's not the major, it's not the major organ that's going to take up the water. So that's why I always suggest people actually hydrate their skin from the outside. Use moisturizing products, even your body. Learn what to use on your body that's not going to irritate your skin. Use things that are fragrance free. Use things that are light and actually absorb better. And don't clog your pores on your skin.
mm. Okay. Now, when it comes to the fixes on this, you're a proponent of combining different modalities to get the end result. Why do you combine these different Like, what's the benefit of combining modalities?
So the benefit of combining different modalities is basically you get a better result, right? When you understand someone's skin or you take the time to learn it from them and teach them as well as you go along, you understand that multiple things can be happening at once on the skin. So, for example, I have a client, she has really bad acne, a little bit of congested skin, dull skin, and she is dehydrated. So what I proposed to her was that we do a hydrofacial first. We clear out the pores. We do a deep cleanse. We do a nice light peel that's going to loosen up any type of debris on her skin. We use a booster that's going to, like, reduce the inflammation on the acne, things like that. So we get that under control. And then afterwards, I propose that we do a series of 3 peels. Now that her skin is already cleansed, we decongested it, we took out dead skin, exfoliated, we did a booster. Now her skin has time to actually breathe a little bit. So within those time frames that I have her scheduled for her peels, she has time now for her skin to start reacting to what we just did as far as the hydrofacial goes. Now her skin is no longer dehydrated. Now she has hydration. We pumped antioxidants into it. We controlled the acne, so now it's no longer inflamed. Now it's just more like acne scarring. And then we move into the peels, which the peels will help to reduce any more of that acne inflammation. It'll reduce any pigmentation that was left behind from it, as well as give her a more thorough exfoliation and give her more renewed skin.
Okay. Now, I want to go dive into some of the misconceptions and myths that you hear most often from your clients. We talked about them having acne and trying to dry your skin out to get rid of the acne as one of them. But what are some of the other common misconceptions or myths you hear from your clients?
Um, the fun one that I always hear is, well, it's raining, so I don't have to use SPF.
Mm,
And I find that to be funny because I'm like, right, I too at one point thought just like them, right? When I didn't know any better. So I have to explain how UV rays work. And I have to explain that just because it's cloudy, I explain, like, have you ever gone to the beach and you still get a tan? And you're like, how? It was cloudy. I don't understand. I'm like, well, UV rays reflect off of things in the street. They reflect off of water, they reflect off of buildings, they reflect off of the floor. So just because it's gloomy out doesn't mean the UV rays are not present. So those are things that I have to explain to people. Um, the other misconception, like I said, is the water drinking. They're like, oh, but I drink a lot of water. Why would my skin be dry? Those are like the two most popular ones that I hear all the time, especially the SPF. SPF is like the number one that everybody says.
Okay. And let's say that someone is looking to get some type of aesthetic treatment done, but they've never been to a place before. They don't know who to go to. What advice would you give to this person as they're doing their search so that they can find a provider who has a knowledge, has the experience, and can get them the end result they're looking for?
I would say do your homework, right? There's a lot of people out there who present themselves in a way, and you want to go to someone who's very knowledgeable. You want to go to someone that's going to take the time to actually meet with you and explain things to you and actually educate you. I think education is the biggest component here. Like, a lot of people do this, honestly, in this industry. It's like everyone is just a dollar to them.
Mm,
I didn't come into this industry for that reason. I came into this industry because I wanted to educate people on how they can do better. And I even tell my clients, I'm like, listen, what you do here is just 20%. What you do at home is 80%. I want to give you a treatment that's going to last, but you need to do your homework. I don't need to see you so often. You don't have to give me your money so often. Stay home, do your treatments, keep
mm,
yourself, up to date. And then when I see you, it'll just be for maintenance. So anyone who's looking for a provider really needs to do their homework, make sure that they're licensed, make sure that they're certified in what they do, look at their portfolio, whether it be on Instagram, their website. Don't be afraid to ask for credentials, don't be afraid to ask what type of products they use. These are things that clients should know anyway. It should be displayed for them. But they should just really take the time to figure out what it is that they truly want as well, because we have a lot of people that think they want one thing but then want another, and they're not pretty sure. So sometimes you just have to speak to that professional so they can kind of guide you to where you need to be or where it is that you're looking to be. But I would say education is the biggest thing. So you have to find someone who's willing to take the time to educate you.
got it. Now, when it comes to the future, where do you think the future of aesthetics is going?
I think the future of aesthetics is major. I think there's so many different machines and protocols and just like, different types of peels coming out, different types of uh just everything. I'm just like, wow, I'm in amazement at how everything is going. We see now the trend with K beauty. Everything is K beauty. Everyone wants a piece of K beauty. They're like, oh my God, this is where it's at. And then you see all these new uh services and devices coming out. You have Zerf. Zerf is a new one that, of course, they use people like Kim Kardashian to make it popular and things like that. But I also want to say people shouldn't just jump on trends just because they see a celebrity promoting it. Remember, that celebrity gets paid to do that. And plus, they probably get a free treatment to promote it. But you really want to make sure that these are things for you. But the future of aesthetics, I think, is going to be major. I think this is an industry that is never going to die out. It's always evolving, it's always coming out with more, and I think it's pretty bright for the future of aesthetics.
Okay. Well, sounds like it is a very exciting time ahead.
Yeah,
Now,
I think so.
so Jaylee, I do have one last question for you, but before I ask it, I do want to point people to your website at jayleesbeautylounge.com. Now, last question for you. What does beauty mean to you?
Beauty means to me basically how you view yourself, right? It's not so much how other people view you. And that's what a part of how I became like a coach in this as well, because it's like a lot of people think, oh, I have to look good for other people. I have to do this because other people will see me. But how do you see you? I feel a lot of people that do it for other people lack a lot of confidence and self-esteem. If you
Mm,
truly do it for you, then you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, man, I really look good. I like taking care of myself. I think you reflect that outwards. When you're constantly doing it for the validation of other people, you're never satisfied. So truly, beauty is it comes from you. It's how you view yourself.
very well said. Okay, well, there you have it. Jaylee sharing her expertise. So, Jaylee, if people want to contact you or your practice, what's the best way for them to do so?
They can go on our website, jayleesbeautylounge.com. All of our information is on there. I do have a contact page on there where they can email me. They can contact us through the spa number. I'm always willing to help people and answer questions in any way that I can.
Awesome. Well, Jaylee, this was awesome. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for sharing your message.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Beauty Talk podcast. Any questions, please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.